So we are here at the Brass Monkey in Ottawa for the Greg Howe Stu Ham Show.
Yep.
Welcome to Ottawa.
Thank you very much.
This is our third podcast. This is a fantastic opportunity. Thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
Let's start with the tour you're on right now.
Okay.
How did you guys meet? Or how did you guys get together? I know this is your third tour, maybe?
With Stu?
Yeah.
Well, we've done a lot of stuff. I mean, he went out with me for various, European outings in South America. We went to Russia with Dennis Chambers. This is all 2011, 2012-ish kind of era. I did his tour last year, following his album, Book of Lies.
Great album, too.
Yeah. And that was fun. It was cool. So I figured, maybe he can do my tour.
And he did.
And he did.
Yeah, you guys did a tour of Europe, I guess, last year?
Yep.
Yeah, how did that go?
It was great. A lot of great turnouts and had a blast. It was fun.
And how's the tour going so far?
It's been remarkably fantastic. Really, I didn't know what to expect because I haven't toured North America in decades. So you
Why?
never. Well, if I'm to be honest with you, it's much easier to tour in Europe, or it's easier to make the money that you want to make in Europe. But I have a lot of fans in the States and up here, and I wanted to, I said to myself, well, even if if this thing doesn't work, financially or whatever, I still need to go meet these, meet my fans, meet the people that make it possible for me to do this. So. But it has really been great. It has been has far exceeded my expectations. We've had, like I said, all sold out shows with the exception of Jam and Java's in Virginia, which was 15 tickets shy of sold out. So last night was sold out, and it's just been, I just feel blessed. So it's really, really cool.
We caught some of your sound check.
Okay.
Really cool stuff. It sounds fantastic, the three of you guys together. Great. Give us a little rundown on what people can expect when they see you guys play.
Well, they're going to see and hear one song off the brand new album, which came out about 2 weeks ago exactly to this day. And the album is not available to the public until September 1st. So it's only available to people who come to these shows.
Oh, cool.
Until September 1st.
It's called Wheelhouse?
It's called Wheelhouse. And so we perform one of the songs off of that. And they'll get some of the quote-unquote classic Greg Howe stuff, like Kick It All Over, off the first album, a Jumpstart off Introspection. Let's see, what else are we doing? We had some of Stu's stuff. I think we do 3 of his songs. So it's a variety of stuff. I have, my career spans over the course of almost 30 years at this point. So there's a lot of, this is my 10th solo album. That doesn't include the 2 albums I did with Richie Kotzen, the album I did with Vitaly Capri, the 2 albums I did with my rock band How To. So there's a lot of material there, or the Marigold album. So
you're a busy guy.
Yeah, been very busy. And this year has been crazy busy because I joined Simon Phillips' band Protocol.
Simon Phillips, the drummer?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So he has a band called Protocol, and I'm going to say this. I don't care if it's public record or not, because I tell him right to his face. I've heard his material. He had a band. His band in the past, before I joined, was Simon Phillips, Andy Timmons on guitar, Steve Weingart on keyboards, and Ernest Tibbs on bass. I mean, it's like a super, super band. And when he called me to ask me to join, I'm like, what's Protocol? I hear about the Aristocrats, I hear about the Winery Dogs, I hear about these other super groups in the same sort of genre, but I never heard of Protocol. And the music is really, really high quality. It's really thoughtful. It's really emotional, and it's really complex. I'm not generally a prog rock fanatic because a lot of times it's just like you're on stage doing math. 13, 9, 11, 7. It doesn't really, it can be impressive, but not very emotionally moving.
Right.
His stuff is really thoughtful and very emotional, and at the same time, complex. But it's very high quality music. So I when he first called me, I said, "Well, why don't you send me some stuff?" Because I was a little tentative, because there have been other prog rock bands who have asked me to join, and I've just sort of passed because it just didn't resonate with me. But when I heard some of his stuff, I was like, "Wow, well, this is really cool. I should do this." The thing was, this was all happening while I was working on my album. It was happening during the NAMM show, and he was offering it during the NAMM show, which I had to be prepared for. I also had a bunch of clinics that were in the middle of all this, so it was kind of crazy, because it was like, come to California, do the album in February. We need to do it quickly, and I'm just like, I don't know. Well, you know what? Let's just dive in and try it. So, but it was all great. It all worked out. The album was great.
Yeah, I've never heard of this. I apologize, but when
that's what I mean.
Or is it out? Or?
I don't think he's going to release it until the tour. So he starts touring. I'll be back out on the road again in the middle of October.
With him?
With Protocol. And that's going to go all the way into December. And then after the holidays, he's going back out, I think. And he's doing some dates in the States as well.
You'll have to come back up here?
I hope he does some stuff in Canada. I really do. The band is fantastic. I wouldn't say it I would, if I just thought it was cool, I'd be like, yeah, it's cool. I think you'll dig it. But it's really a special musical. And
it's all instrumental, or is there vocals?
It's all instrumental.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wow, man, I haven't heard that name since Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Like he did.
Oh, that's right.
Sin
I
After
forgot
Sin,
about that. Yeah.
Stained Glass.
Well, I worked with him about 7 years ago with Eddie Jobson. Went out on a tour, and I was on one of his tours, and he was sort of, he had this big production where he had 2 drummers, so that's he had Marco Miniman and Simon Phillips all playing like identical stuff on stage.
Wow.
And it was impressive, but really not practical when you're playing small clubs.
2 drummers,
yeah,
it doesn't work.
But that's where I got a chance to meet Simon Phillips. It's really odd, because I was about to call Simon to see if he wanted to do my tour. I was setting up a tour for Europe for this year, back in January, and I wanted to try to get Dennis Chambers on it. So I figured, if I'm asking Dennis about his availability for October, and it's now January, that certainly seems like enough time. But even then, Dennis he's so in demand. He's like, well, October, I got this, and Dean Brown wants to do this, and Mike Stern, blah, blah, blah. And so I wasn't getting a straight answer out of him. But the promoter and the booking agent were sort of like, if you could get one more guy in your group that's got some marquee value, we can probably get much better offers. So that's why I was looking for somebody, because I know a lot of great musicians who are not well known, but they don't draw,
Right.
And so I thought, who do I know that would be available and sort of on the West Coast? And so I figured I'll call Simon Phillips. There's he's a legend practically, and he's a great drummer. So I decided tomorrow morning I'm going to get my cup of coffee and call Simon Phillips. I get my phone the next morning. I go to start dialing his number. My phone rings. Simon Phillips. I hadn't talked to him in 7 years.
Wow.
And it was just the most serendipitous,
That's awesome.
It was crazy. So I think that was another thing that made me feel like maybe this is some weird sign, like I should just do this.
Right. So is he going to do it?
Oh, we already recorded the album in February.
I'm talking about the tour, the European tour.
Oh yeah, so I'm doing his tour. So he was calling to ask if I would do his tour.
But you wanted him in Europe.
I wanted him to do my tour in October. He wanted me to do his tour in October.
So you're canceling your tour, doing his tour.
Right, we're going to do... Right, exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Right, I'll be doing that. Because the thing with him is he likes to tour with the band that actually recorded the album. So I recorded it in February. And yeah, it's probably a good idea, just because you're more connected to it. And if people have the album and they, one of the members or somebody that they want to see, then at least they'll know that they're going to be there.
Right.
But,
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's a busy year for me.
For sure. I want to talk a little bit about your past.
Okay.
I was shocked when I was checking out when I was doing my research. You've played with Aguilera, Rihanna, Salt and Pepper, Justin Timberlake, Michael Jackson. like, holy shit, dude.
Enrique Iglesias, NSYNC. And a lot of these were one-offs. So when it comes to actually being a sideman, a paid sideman for a consistent gig, it's Michael Jackson, NSYNC, Justin Timberlake, Enrique Iglesias, and really that's it.
Okay, so how do you prepare for something like that as a guy who plays music that is all guitar, going into a situation where you're not really as important as everybody else?
Yeah, nobody cares.
Do you prepare differently?
I don't know if you prepare differently, but you prepare with a different mindset, because my goal in a scenario like that is not to be noticed or be good, but it's to just deliver what the principal artist wants from me. So there have been many times where they're asking me to play things where I'm thinking, really? I mean, there's way cooler things I could do here, but if this is what you want, then this is what you get.
So you do.
Yeah, so it's a different mindset.
Do you get to improv a lot when you're doing that, or is it really, really a tight ship?
It depends on the artist. With Michael Jackson, there's not much room for improvisation. He's listening to everything. He knows everything that's happening while it's going on. While he's moonwalking and doing all this crazy stuff, he's hearing everything. It's really strange. But with like Enrique, he'd sometimes give me a solo spot in a song, and I could change it up from night to night. I had a little bit of we had a thing with Justin Timberlake, or actually it was NSYNC, with Justin, where we'd go out on the long catwalk and we do this little routine where it's a back and forth. He sings, I play guitar.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that on.
It's okay.
I saw that on YouTube today.
Oh, did you?
Oh, that was great.
It's fun,
Yeah,
it was fun.
So it would be stupid not to ask this question, but is Michael Jackson, like being on tour with Michael Jackson, is it as crazy as most people would imagine?
When you say crazy, what do you mean?
Big
and outrageous.
Big and outrageous,
yes.
And
he had a private jet just for the band, just for the band members. A private jet with flight attendants and all kinds of just for
the band,
just for the band.
Not the roadies or anything, just the band.
Just the band, right?
Wow.
And then a separate one for him and his little entourage. They actually had two entire shows identical, because it was so big. They had to send the one ahead to start building it. Yeah, in time. So it was.
What year was that you did that?
97.
97.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is he as crazy as people think, or is he a nice guy?
Super nice guy.
Yeah.
Very quiet. Very Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, he's introverted. He sort of, doesn't say much. Just observes, But the moment he steps on that stage, the moment his foot hits that stage, he transforms into I own the world. Cocky, just he knows. You know what I mean? This is a totally different guy.
That's
totally
wild.
different. Yeah, very, very strange. Clearly, way more comfortable on stage than off. Yeah.
Why did he make you wear the Jennifer Batten hair? I gotta ask, man. I saw it on YouTube and I just laughed. Why did you have to wear the hair?
It's just that, because it's a show, and he's got a very specific vision, and so having a female lead guitar player was a big thing for him. When I did the gig, I was temporarily replacing Jennifer Batten. Her mother got ill, so she had to step off the tour. She had already told me in advance that they weren't going to audition anyone, and that I had the gig if and when she left. And it's a crazy story because she sent me a lot of the material. She actually was nice enough to put the microphone for one of their rehearsals near her speaker cabinet, so I could not only hear the songs, but I could hear specifically what she was doing. And then she would send me all her. She was using. What was she using? It's a Digitech preamp unit,
right?
With presets and everything. And she'd even send all those, like the verse is preset 031, chorus is preset this, blah, blah, blah. Because I didn't have it, but I was going to have to use hers when I got there. So I was rehearsing for a while, but you have to remember, this is right before cell phones started to come about, right? So I'm like waiting for this phone call for months. I'm passing up gigs, I'm passing up touring opportunities, I'm passing up stuff because I don't want to miss this call. And weeks went by, then months went by. So finally I just was like, look, I got to get back. I can't have this phone call rule my life, you know. So I just got back to things and kind of stopped listening to the material and just figured it's probably not going to happen. Until I got a frantic phone call on a Monday night at 8 o'clock from the music director saying, Greg, we need you on an airplane tomorrow morning from Newark Airport at 6 o'clock flight. We already have it booked for you. Now, it's 8 o'clock, right? I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. For me to be on that flight means I have to be at the airport by 4 o'clock. That means I have to leave my home by 2 because it's about 2 hours to get there. It's 8 o'clock, so I have 6 hours to learn the set and, pack my clothes and get everything together. And it was crazy. And he was saying that it has to happen this way because the next show is Wednesday in Amsterdam in front of 65,000 people. So I said, when's the next show after the Wednesday show? And he was like, Friday. I said, if you can make it Friday, I promise I'll be so ready. He's like, nope, if you can't do this one, then we'll have to find somebody else. So I'm like, well, I can't blow this. I don't know how I'm going to pull it off. I have no idea, but I'm just going to say yes. So I said yes, and it was just, had the Walkman, listening to stuff, pick up the guitar for a second, look, okay, that's cool, do some laundry, fold some underwear, And,
is it tough stuff to learn?
It's not tough to learn it, but memorizing every little part can sometimes be, and sort of determining which guitar parts you're playing, because a lot of his songs would have 3 or 4 guitar parts, and so I had to refer to her demo and remember what she was playing. And it's not difficult, but it's memorizing it all can be a weird thing. So I get there on Tuesday afternoon. I get to the hotel, and I have maybe another hour or so to listen a little more. But they had me, being introduced to management and showing me around, and so I didn't have tons of time. And then they wanted to do a sound check with me the next morning, which was Wednesday, the day of the show. So this is Wednesday morning now, the day of the show.
You're still jet lagged.
I'm still jet lagged. I'm still sort of not sure about some parts, and I haven't even touched her Digitech unit yet. The Beat It solo had to be played with her guitar because it's detuned, because he's down a half step. I haven't played that guitar yet. I don't know what the action feel. I don't know what I'm getting into. It was pretty scary.
I can imagine.
So, and then of course the band that's already been on tour now for a while, they're irritated because they have to get up at 10 o'clock and do a sound check with the new guy. So they're already like, kind
You're
of
in the bad books ready to start. Wow.
So we start doing the show, and we get through the first song, second song, third song, fourth song, and I'm starting to get a sense of, you know what? I think we can do this. I think it can happen. So the production manager comes over to me and says, "Yeah, it sounds great. Sounding good." I said, "Oh, thank God." He goes, "Okay, so let's talk about the choreography."
The choreography.
This is exactly what he says.
It's
to
a
me.
Michael Jackson concert. You got to think of that. Yeah.
And she had the most, if you watch one of those concerts, she's really the only one that's an actual playing member that interacts with dancers and stuff too. But as far as a band member, she was the only one, and it's a lot of stuff. You got to dance with him. You got to do all kinds of stuff with him. I had to handle a pyro guitar that was dangerous. So at one point, I had this gigantic poster-sized piece of paper that surrounded my pedal board that was just song 1, preset 015, pre-chorus, preset 6, chorus, preset 201, second verse, preset 015, step forward, spin around twice, wait for dancers to pass by. This is all going on. So
wow.
So it really is a show, and the fact that he was replacing a female is the reason that I think he wanted me to wear the wig, so that he could still have that. Even in the Vegas shows, there's a great show called the Michael Jackson One Show at Mandalay Bay, and there's not really a band in the show, but there is a guitar player in the show, and it's a female. So that's just his thing.
Wow.
So that was the reason for the wig. The first wig they gave me didn't fit, and I was like, yes.
But you did it.
I did do it.
Through. How many shows did you do?
I was out for about 5 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what an experience.
It was amazing. Absolutely incredible. Beyond description, really. Some of the craziest things that happened on that tour were, like, you'd be at a hotel in some major city, and these girls would be out, just surrounded. They just want to get a glimpse of them. So, like, they're surrounding the hotel. You look out the window, it's just a crowd of people surrounding the hotel all night, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, just because, we might see him walk out. He must be there, so he has to come out somehow. We got to, and they'd sometimes be loud, and it was just crazy. It was a surreal thing, but
like Beatlemania.
It was insane. It really was.
Wow. Did you meet Bubbles?
No, I didn't.
He didn't bring his monkey on the tour?
No, I didn't get it. He may have, but I didn't. I was not introduced.
What a great experience, though.
Yeah, it was
fantastic.
Great. It was really, really amazing.
Wow. Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's your past.
No, of course.
The new album. It's like 10 years since your last album. Almost 10.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, since the last instrumental. Now I had a rock band in between called Marigold, and that album came out, I think, 2012 or 13 or something.
Right. But
as far as instrumental, yeah, I haven't done one since, I guess, 2008.
What took so long?
The rock band, which I was really into wanting to put out a vocal album, and plus I got into a lot of touring and stuff like that. So,
is it even worth making albums anymore?
Well, for me, it's great because especially in this situation, I'm selling a ton of them, right, on tour. And unlike a record label, and I'm not on a label anymore.
It's all independent.
Right, it's independent, so it's not like for a $15 CD, you end up with $1.25 like you do on a record label. Now you get $15.
You keep it all. Nice.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. And a lot of people still do like the physical product. I do think that we have to be realistic and expect that this is a dying, medium. It's going to end. That format's going to end probably within 5 years or so. It's sad. I mean, maybe it won't, and maybe it won't. But I don't buy CDs. I download everything now. I go to iTunes and I buy a new record. And and it's kind of sad while I'm doing it. As I'm purchasing it, I'm sort of like, oh, this is sad.
I agree. When I was young and you bought the record or the CD, you spent hours listening to it, reading all the credits, reading the lyrics.
It was an experience. It wasn't just the music. It was the whole...
Right. You look forward to that new album coming out.
Exactly.
And now it's everyone just kind of skips from song to song.
Yeah.
Gets a taste.
Yes.
So how's the industry treating you? Or is everything you do independent now?
It's independent now. So I love it. Because what I'm really discovering is that it's the closest thing to like a genuine free market. If you can take advantage of the internet and you're willing to work, put out videos, the new format, the new sort of way to do this successfully is to give a lot of shit away, make people love you, and then finally come out with something that they have to purchase.
Right.
And so you put out good quality videos, show yourself playing or whatever you're doing, singing, whatever you do. Or building tables, whatever you do, but get it out there. Let the world see it, let the world know about it, and then create a following. And I see it happening all the time, and I think it's in a certain way a lot more organic and genuine. You know what I mean? Like if I put a video out that gets 1 million views, I don't need an A&R guy to tell me whether or not people will like it. They're already telling me directly, right? So you're no longer at the mercy of one guy's decision as though he has some superior mind to know this stuff. I mean, none of them do. If somebody actually knew what the formula was to discovering a new band or an artist that was guaranteed to be successful, that guy would be a billionaire.
Right.
There is no way that they know. They just, and a lot of times they'll just put, people in a position to make decisions that aren't qualified at all. So I love the fact that the internet just lets the people decide. If this sucks, I'll know it because I'll get, 3,000 views instead of 300,000.
Right.
And that's now I can go fix it. Now I know what to do or get out of this line of work or whatever. But at least we don't have to just cross our fingers and hope that some guy that claims to know everything actually does.
I read an interesting story about Iron Maiden that they actually follow where they get the most downloads and base their tour on
it's a good idea.
Not the sales, but the actual downloads.
Yeah. They
know more people are...
That's the kind of world that we're moving into. And there are negatives to it, but I think there are a lot of positives to it. Because, even with this tour, I think one of the reasons that it's been successful is because we are targeting, with all the advertisement promotion we've done, we're able to target specific markets. So when someone sees their timeline on like social media, it will be specific. Greg Howe coming to, if you live in New York and we're playing at the Iridium in New York, you're going to see that ad. You're not going to see the one for San Diego or the one for up here. You're going to see that one, and it's really helpful. It's really powerful. It's at least as good as having a decent publicist, if not better, because publicists often really a lot of them do is just get you interviews with like online magazines. They're not really doing things. Not all publicists. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It really has helped a lot.
Yeah.
But like you said, though, it's not the same.
It's not the same. Yeah, but I'm encouraged by this, by the way the industry is.
It's nice to hear someone say something positive.
I am because the record labels have gotten away. If you ever get a chance, read a book called Hitmen. It's about the industry from really the birth of rock and roll up until like the 90s, the mid 90s, and you get to see and really understand how big a corporate industry it really is, and how it just doesn't have that much to do with the art form of music. It has much more to do with sales and making money and promotion and paying off record DJs and just doing. It's just money. It's all about money. This is much more about. In other words, what's really changed, if you could summarize it by saying, in the old days, you went on tour to promote your album. Now, you make an album so that you can go on tour and make some money.
Right, because there's no money in the records.
There's not as much, right? It's very tough. Unless you're in that super, Rihanna, Bruno Mars, Justin Timberlake thing, and then there's a humongous gap to where guys like me and Stu Ham can make a good living, but we're not making $15 million a week like those people are. So
flying on private jets.
Right.
Yeah. But about the new album, I just read Guitar World. I guess it did an interview with Guitar World.
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
They said it's kind of a throwback to your roots. You return to your roots. What does that mean?
I'm not sure, because I don't know. I don't remember saying that to him. That's his own assessment.
What are your roots?
When I started playing, I was really into...
that was mine.
Okay. Well, I've always been in music. So even before, even as a kid, me and my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, we just loved music. We used to pretend to be the Beatles, and we'd do concerts with, tennis rackets. And there was Don Kirshner's rock concert back then, and then MTV came out, and we just loved it. And then I did start learning how to play guitar, and I took about 3 lessons maybe in my entire life. Didn't learn anything because the guy would, Mel Bay book, and he'd say, read this, and I knew the melody, so I never would I didn't. And so the next week I'd come back, I'd just play the thing, and pretend that I'm reading, but I didn't need to read it to play it. So I never really got great at sight reading. But I also realized that guitar lessons weren't that helpful to me because I wasn't interested in, Mary Had a Little Lamb kind of songs. I wanted to rock out. I wanted to play bar chords, and I wanted to sound like Pete Townsend and Jimmy Page. And so I just started. At that time, my parents had some foster kids that were. I was like 10 years old, and we had foster kids that stayed at the house. That happened for about a year and a half straight. They were all about 15, 16 years old. One kid played guitar, so he showed me chords. And then it was cool because now me and my brother could actually play music and sing and have a company. I didn't know anything about lead guitar. I never even noticed it. Right? I just wanted some musical backdrop to us singing and stuff like that. And the same kid that taught me these chords, he left. He came back to visit us about a year later, and I said, "Hey, let's go jam and play guitar together," which usually just meant strumming cowboy chords, So we're doing this, and at one point he takes a single note, and he bends it up. And I'm like, wait, whoa, what was that? What'd you just do? And he's like, well, I just, and I just thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever heard in my life. So for the next 6 months, I'm just bending notes everywhere. And sort of inadvertently discovered the pentatonic scale. And then suddenly I'm listening to radio and I'm hearing like, oh, people do this all the time.
There are solos and songs.
There's solos and songs. So I started to just kind of get it on my own a little bit, and I could mimic solos and hear things. And I went through a big Jimmy Page fan, big Zeppelin thing. Learned, of course, Stairway to Heaven and a lot of the stuff off of Zeppelin 2 and 4. And it was surprisingly, I don't want to say easy, but it wasn't super challenging. I'm like, wow, well, this guy's like the greatest guitarist on the planet, and I can kind of do this. So guitar is not that hard. Until Van Halen came out.
Oh boy, here we go.
And so I wasn't actually even that serious about guitar. It was just something fun to do once in a while. But when Van Halen came out, I was like, wait a second, what's that? What is that sound? What is he doing? Is that a guitar? I don't even know what that is. And I was obsessed with cracking the code because I didn't, this is before social media, before videos existing.
Probably even before tab books.
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of the tab books had his tapping stuff written as though it was flamenco style guitar. So they'd have like, instead of everything on one string, like they'd have 3 separate strings, one note.
Got it.
Like So I did take classical guitar lessons for one summer off this guy who was a great player, and he thought the same thing. He thought, this is what Van Halen is doing. And he was really good at it, but I could tell that it wasn't the same. And so finally, my friends went to see Van Halen. I went with them, and all I wanted to do was just see what he was doing. How is this happening? And it was nosebleed seats, but binoculars. I wasn't there for any reason other than to get a guitar lesson.
Was this like right at the beginning when he turned his back to the crowd? Or
this was around 81. So I think it was right after their third album, Women and Children. Yeah. And first song he comes out, doing that, and I'm like, duh.
That's how he did it.
That's how you're doing it. I ran. They dropped me off at my house at like 3 a.m. I ran upstairs to my bedroom, plugged my guitar in, played Eruption, and I was the first kid. It was a sort of a rural town in New Jersey, and no one knew what he was doing.
Even at that time? Really?
Not really.
Wow,
Not really.
Wild.
It was still kind of like, what's that? I'm sure some people did, and probably the bigger cities and where there was a more competitive musical environment. I'm sure there were people, but in my town, my small town, I was the first kid on the block, and I was like, yes, I can play Eruption. And then I became obsessed with guitar after that, because I wasn't even really a Van Halen fan. I wasn't crazy about their music, but it kind of grew on me because I got bombarded with it, trying to study his stuff.
Right.
And then I discovered that as I got older, that really what I love about him, even to this day, has less to do with the technical things and much more to do with, like, the guy can swing his ass off. He's one of the best rock rhythm guitar players there are.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. I've always said that. He never gets the respect.
He doesn't get the credit.
I think I said that to you the other day. Beautiful Girls is one of the most amazing rhythm tracks.
Oh my God, the swing on that is so crazy. And also the fact that, you know, all the greats, all my favorite guitar players are people who aren't necessarily the best players. Maybe they are, but it's just that they have it's like, you know, you watch Christopher Walken and you go, I don't know if that's the best actor in the world, but I do know one thing. You're not going to get that from anywhere else but right here. And that's Van Halen, that's Hendrix, that's, you know, Pat Metheny, that's Alan Holdsworth, that's Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, all the greats, what makes them really great is the fact that they have such a defined signature. And you can copy their licks, but you can't copy them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, one of a kind.
One of a kind, right.
Yeah.
So that's...
Well, it's interesting, though, that you talk about Townsend and Page, because you don't sound anything like them.
No, it is interesting, because especially the Van Halen thing, because he's really my first major influence. The other guys were kind of like, oh, that's guitar playing. That's cool. I can do this kind of.
But even Van Halen, you don't sound like.
No,
like aside from some tapping.
Right. I went through a phase when we started a cover band immediately after I got out of high school, like literally almost the day after, and started playing clubs and doing a lot of Van Halen, doing a lot of like Ozzy Osbourne, anything guitar driven that gave me an opportunity to show off. We were doing, and I did go through a phase where I listened to him so much that I could actually almost predict what he was going to do. I had his vibrato. I knew the way he thought. Like, it really got to a point where I have to break away from this, or else, you know, I got to get my own thing. And I'll tell you what's one of the strangest things that happened to me is that after I did start becoming more evolved and more advanced technically, I could find, you know, I had to be honest and say, you know, I think I'm starting to do things that maybe even my idol couldn't do. And there's a certain part of it kind of breaks your heart when you're a kid. It's like when you find out that you can kick your dad's ass or something, and you don't want it to be like that. But, and not that, and you know, I would never, you know, say that I play better than him. I'm just saying that as a kid, when the only thing that you sort of identify as becoming a better player is technical proficiency, then it's kind of like, how do I reconcile this? Because I think I'm doing stuff that my idol can't do now. But the reality is that as I got older, then I started to realize, like, no one sounds like Van Halen. No one's going to ever sound like him, and he's still one of my favorite players of all time. So. But I did have to make a very conscious effort to almost stop listening to him and get into my own things and embrace some of my own emerging strengths, because I could feel that there were certain things I was doing that I wasn't hearing a lot of other players do that seemed to work, and like, well, maybe this is cool. You know, a lot of times I think guitar players could be way more innovative than they are, but they think that since they haven't heard someone else do something, it hasn't been verified, therefore it must not be cool. Right. I think sometimes that is a mindset, because I've seen guitar players sometimes I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, well, I'm just doing this thing. Well, that sounds amazing. Really? Yes, dude, of course. I mean, have you ever heard that before? No, I don't. They're thinking I've never heard it before because it's probably not that cool. I'm thinking you've never heard it before because no one's ever done it. You know, right. Do that. You know.
Is it coming back, guitar playing? It went away for a while.
It really did go away for a while. I think it is coming back. I don't know that it's coming back in the mainstream pop thing, but you know, you have guys like John Mayer who have helped sort of move it into mainstream a little bit. He highlights the guitar a lot. He's a very good player, so it becomes a little more acceptable. I think that when guitar became rejected, you know, especially during the Seattle phase, it wasn't rejected so much because of what it was, but because of what it was affiliated with, what it was associated with image-wise. Because you had these guys that were coming out and sort of, in a certain way, hitting the reset button on rock and roll. Because to me, it was starting to get a little ridiculous. I remember seeing a Poison video on a Saturday night. I'll never forget this. I went out on the Saturday night, and I didn't know, there was nothing really going. I was still living with my mom at the time. I came home, and I'm like, yeah, there's nothing going on. I'm going to watch TV. So I turned the TV on, and there's this video and I start laughing because I'm like, oh, this is Saturday Night Live, because it was just the epitome of every cliche in that hair metal phase. And I'm literally laughing out loud because I'm like, this is fucking hilarious. This is perfect. And when the video ends, it was actually a video. It was, I think Talk Dirty to me. It said MTV, like Talk Dirty. I'm like, that's a real video. And to me, at that point, I'm like, yeah, this stuff, I think some of the angst of that should be at the foundation of the whole rock and roll spirit has disappeared for this. I don't know what this is. This is not, yeah. There's nothing really, there's no, rock and roll to me, there's a rebellious, youthful, sort of demeanor that goes with it. And I think it was starting to get lost. So there was something kind of cool, even in my opinion, that when like Nirvana and Soundgarden and those types of bands came out, to me it was like, yeah, you know what? I think we could use this right now. This is kind of nice to just, a pair of jeans, sing about something that's, that's not just, high heels clicking on the boulevard kind of nonsense. And, but so when people started, the thing is, some of the guitar playing of the era that went away was spectacular.
Right.
Guys like, White Snake album, John Sykes. There was so much good playing, but because it was so directly associated with that genre, that image, it just was rejected. You can't do anything with vibrato even, or else everyone's gonna look at you and go, 80s guy, so I think that was part of what happened. It just got connected to a pretentious musical format,
Right.
But I would think, honestly, that enough time has gone by. I mean, good Lord, it's been a long time.
It's been 20 years.
Yeah.
More than 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
but
know
those Seattle guys were badass too on guitar. They were great guitar players.
Oh yeah, some of them were, and some of them had to deliberately not show off.
Right.
Because it's like they're going to get stuck in that same, stigma sort of thing. So,
right.
I think it's coming back, and even if it's not, again, the internet has opened up these specific markets. So there's a big bunch of people out there that love guitar. I mean, when you can put a G3 tour together and have 3 guitar players, no vocals practically, have big audiences come out to see that, and I guess people are making money. That tells me that there's still a big guitar aficionado audience. There's a bunch of guitar fans still exist out there.
Let's hope so.
Well,
and you're doing a sold-out tour.
Yeah, and we're having great
working.
results. Absolutely, yeah. So they're definitely there. I mean, there's always an audience for something. There's an audience for people that build couches, probably. But no, I think guitar is very popular.
It's coming back,
and I do think it's coming back. Yeah.
Best of luck. Thanks so much for all of this, and
my pleasure.
I'm looking forward to the show tonight.
Excellent.
It's going to be great.
I think you'll enjoy it. I'll do my best to see to it that you do. If not, you can throw shit at the stage.
Don't worry, I won't be doing that.